Superhero Deep Dive. Alright. It is a new deep dive. Hello everyone, I am your host Jason, as always, and I have a great show. This one is actually a lot more than I thought it would be, but it's in a good way, I guess. Today I'm going to be talking about Legion, but before I get into Legion, let me get into all the disclaimers and stuff like that. So the information is pulled from different sources across the internet and may or may not be completely complete, but they do give a really good insight on the current superhero. Also, you can catch me every Tuesday and Thursday on Outworld Fleet Radio. Their website is www.un-conventional.com/radio, and they do play me every Tuesday and Thursday throughout the day. You can catch me on Twitter and Instagram under Super Deep Dive. I do use the hashtag Superhero Deep Dive. You can email me at b4itall, so b4itall@yahoo.com. And you can catch me on YouTube under Superhero Deep Dive, where I post videos all day. I have videos coming up all the time, every day, forever. But I recently hit 500 subscribers. I did a drawing, and I believe that Tom won the award, so I left a message for him to email me. So I hope he does, so we can get him his prize out to him. Let's see here. Other than that, I think that's all the housekeeping I have. So yeah, let's get into it. Legion is awesome, and he is crazy awesome at the same time. Alright, his real name is David Charles Haller. While working in an Israeli psychiatric facility, Charles Xavier met a patient named Gabrielle Haller. The two had an affair which ended amicably. Gabrielle became pregnant with David but did not tell Charles. Now David, at a young age, was living with his mother and stepfather in Paris when his home was attacked by terrorists and his stepfather was killed. The trauma of the situation caused an initial manifestation of David's mutant powers, as David incinerated the minds of the terrorist. That is crazy. He incinerated their minds, like he microwaved them, basically. Let's see. In the process, he unintentionally absorbed the mind of the terrorist leader, Jamal Karami, into his own. Being linked to so many others at their time of death, David was rendered catatonic for years. As he slowly recovered, he was moved to the care of Moira McTaggart at the Muir Island Mutant Research Facility. The trauma, possibly in conjunction with the nature of his reality-altering powers, had caused that David's mind dissociate chronically until it became into a dissociative identity disorder, or DID, and each alter manifesting different mutant abilities. So he kind of got multiple personalities, and that's kind of the easiest way to say it. It may not be the proper way, and I'm sorry, I don't want to offend anyone, but for the sake of me going through 9 pages of this deep dive, I'm going to say multiple personalities, just for ease, not disrespect. But the Karami alter, which manifested telepathic abilities, struggled for years to separate his consciousness from David's. In the process, Karami tried to make many alters as he could, trying to end David's catatonic state. Some of the alters resisted Karami, most notably Jack Wayne, a swaggering adventurer who was telekinetic, and Cindy, a temperamental rebellious girl who was pyrokinetic. Ultimately, Karami, Wayne, and Cindy continued to exist as David's most prominent alters. Now, during his time at Muir Island, David saved Moira and Wolfsbane from a fatal accident by accessing the telekinetic abilities of his Jack Wayne alter. However, this allowed Jack Wayne to take control of David's body, and he left the island. The New Mutants tracked him down, and after a struggle, convinced Wayne to allow David to again assume control. Soon after, David was possessed by the Shadow King, and while under the Shadow King's influence, David killed the mutant Destiny and destroyed 2/3 of the island. When the X-Men and X-Factor defeated the Shadow King, David again was left in a coma. So that's kind of like his MO so far. Like, he's gotta, I don't know, if he wins, great. If he loses, he goes into a coma. It's kind of like the ultimate take your ball and go home, right? Let's see here. Let's see. Years later, David awoke from his coma believing his psyche had fully healed. When he had killed the mutant Precog Destiny, David had absorbed her psyche as well. Destiny gave David vague prophetic guidance about the great world that would exist if only years ago Professor X had been given a real chance to fulfill his dream. David, who despite his belief that he was not sane, understood these words as a directive to go travel back in time and kill Magneto, Xavier's greatest adversary, to allow his father Professor X to achieve the dream of a human and mutant coexistence. As several X-Men attempted to stop him, Legion traveled 20 years into the past, accidentally dragging the X-Men with him. David appeared in the past in front of Xavier and Magneto, who at the time were orderlies in a mental hospital. As Legion attacked Magneto, the X-Men intervened, and after overpowering the X-Men, Legion readied his fatal blow for Magneto, but Xavier leaped in front of the lethal psychic attack and was himself killed. By accidentally killing his father, the horrified David prevented his own birth and ceased to exist. The death of Xavier created a catastrophic alternate timeline, the Age of Apocalypse. So I didn't know this before researching this character. Legion created the Age of Apocalypse. I had no idea. I thought Age of Apocalypse, because I was like a teenager when it happened. I thought Age of Apocalypse was just like, what if Apocalypse basically won one of his big battles and took over. This is so much deeper, and it's so crazy. Alright, ultimately, Bishop managed to fix the timeline by enlisting the aid of the New Realities X-Men to travel back in time to the moment of Xavier's murder. There, Bishop confronted Legion, using David's own power to create a psionic loop that showed the young mutant the damage of his actions and what they would cause. David allowed the energy released in this process to incinerate him, and in his last moments apologizing for what he had done. While David was considered deceased, yeah, I just had to pause there because no one's ever dead in the Marvel Universe. Some of his alters manifested as spirits and started terrorizing Israel, where David would have been born. Excalibur was called to stop them, and ultimately Megan used her empathy to calm their rage, convincing them to go towards the light. That's insane. Like, this character has so much insanity around it that I didn't know until, like, researching the character. So, David had in fact not died. Rather, his mind manifested in other place, a timeless interdimensional limbo. And when Bishop had turned Legion's psychic power back on him, it devastated David's mental landscape, undoing all of the healing efforts of Karami and Professor Xavier. David now had thousands of alters vying for control in his mind. David wandered through other places for an untold period of time, trying to make his way back home. In magic, a mutant able to travel across dimensions reached out and contacted one of David's alters, the Legion, who could alter reality at a cosmic scale, and this incredibly powerful personality claimed to be the real David, although it was distinct from David's host alter. Magic offered to guide Legion back to his dimension, providing that this Legion would aid her by destroying her nemesis, the Elder Gods, when she asked. So, I always thought that Legion was actually the main alter, but I guess not, right? I mean, the more you know. The more you know. This is blowing my mind, and I'm loving it. I'm here for the ride, and I hope you are too. Alright, but David remanifested in the physical world, although David's host alter had been imprisoned in his mindscape by his other alters. allowing the more malicious alters to take turns controlling his body. One of these alters killed and absorbed the mind of a young girl named Marcy Sobal, who became another alter within Legion. David was also discovered by the New Mutants as they investigated a possible mutant case in Westcliff, Colorado. David absorbed Karma and Magic into his mind as the rest of the team fought a losing battle against various alters that seized control of Legion's body. And in his mindscape, Karma and Magic destroyed the hostile alters. I kept thinking host alters, but the other hostile alters. Eventually, they found the Marcy alter, who led them to David's imprisoned core self. By freeing David and helping him reassert control, Karma and Magma saved the rest of the team and were restored to their bodies. David was then detained by the X-Men and put in the care of Professor X, Dr. Nemesis, Danger, and Rogue. Now, weeks later, Magic managed to bring the Elder Gods back to Earth, planning to have her revenge on them. The Elder Gods manifested, causing catastrophic destruction, and appeared ready to lay waste to the world. As the various mutant teams tried to stop this apocalypse, Magic sent her ally Karma to free Legion and awaken the Legion completeness alter to fulfill its bargain. The Legion, who Magic called the God Mutant, appeared in altered reality to wipe the Elder Gods from existence and reset the world to a time before they had manifested. After this, David's host alter returned and he was taken back into the care and treatment of the X-Men. Believing that David's psyche would be healed if his alters were quarantined, Dr. Nemesis began to catalog and contain these alters within David's mind. Unbeknownst to Dr. Nemesis and Professor Xavier, however, David's mind subconsciously perceived this intervention as a threat and created a psychic antibody, a powerful new alter to defend itself. The new alter had access to a degree of David's underlying ability to alter reality and time. Assuming the appearance of the deceased Moira McTaggart, who he considered a mother figure, the alter attempted to protect Legion from the assault on his mind by creating a pocket reality where Legion was the hero that he always wanted to be. Many members of various X teams were also brought into this new reality, which existed separately from Marvel's primary continuity. So the alternate pocket reality, called the Age of X, was a dystopia in which mutants had been hunted almost to extinction. The remaining mutants were kept alive by Legion's mutant team, who daily generated a force wall to repel attacking human forces. Legion himself remained unaware that one of his alters had created this world, and most of the mutants who had been brought to the reality by Moira believed that they had always been there. Within his pocket reality, the Moira personality was practically omnipotent, creating and controlling random soldiers for Legion and the other mutants to kill. Eventually, Legacy, the alternate Rogue, discovered that Moira had in fact created this reality, and confronted with this truth, Legion spoke to Moira, who tearfully offered to create as many universes for him as he wanted. Instead, David absorbed Moira back into himself and erased the Age of X reality, restoring his participants to Earth 616, and ultimately this entire timeline that lasted 7 days within their normal continuity. I remember Age of X when it came out. Check it out if you have a chance. The artwork is incredible. And it's crazy that this only lasted a week. With the Age of X incident underscoring the potentially apocalyptic scope of David's power, Professor X proposed a new approach to help Legion retain control of himself. Instead of isolating David from the other alters in his mind, Professor X suggested that he learn to coexist with them. To this end, Dr. Nemesis, Madison Jeffrey, and Reed Richards designed a neural switchboard wristband for David. The switchboard assigned unique numbers to different Legion alters. When David entered a number, the device stimulated cells in his thalamus and neocortex, creating a one-way link between David's host alter and the other alters he selected. This allowed Legion to access the power of that alter for several seconds without being overwhelmed by it. While testing the device, Legion discovered that 6 of his alters were no longer in his mind, but they had escaped, manifesting separately from him in the real world. With the team of X-Men, Legion tracked down and reabsorbed all these rogue personas, and while absorbing the last one, he accidentally absorbed Rogue along with it, and after releasing her, David suffered a massive shock to his nervous system. Rogue stated that while she was inside Legion, she was connected to thousands of types of powers that were more, and there were more being born all the time. To aid his recovery, Professor X left Legion with Mirza the Mystic, a powerful empath and telepath who ran a Himalayan monastery. While at the monastery, David gained much greater control of himself, and he stopped using the neural switchboard wristband. Under Mirza's tutelage, David learned to visualize a facility in his mind where his alters would be kept and controlled. However, while David was at the monastery, elsewhere in the world, Professor X was killed. When Legion sensed this, the mental shock caused a catastrophic release of energy that killed Mirza and everyone else at the monastery. In addition, without knowing it, David subconsciously created a new alter called the Fiend. This alter was able to kill other alters in his mind and absorbing their powers in the process. You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of My Hero Academia. Not All Might, but his enemy, the one that's all for one. You know, like this guy goes around absorbing their powers and stuff and killing them. In the final issue of X-Men Legacy, Legion, reaching the full extent of his powers, decided to erase himself from existence. But I bet you that's not it. Alright, for unknown reasons, which could be perhaps elements of his own psyche working against him, Legion's attempt to erase himself from existence failed. And when he reappeared, David's mind was again fragmented into many alters, including a malicious new alter, Lord Trauma. Lord Trauma aimed to take over David's mind and body by absorbing all of David's other alters. In a desperate attempt to save himself, David sought out help from a renowned young psychotherapist named Hannah Jones to delve into his fractured mind and fight back his dark alters. While Jones was ultimately able to help Legion defeat Trauma, she remained trapped in David's psyche. Her body was left in a vegetative coma. To thank Jones, Legion placed her psyche into a dream state or alternate reality where she achieved her biggest goals. As the X-Men race around the globe to fight the temporal anomalies that have been springing up and to corral the hundreds of Madrix's duplicates wreaking havoc, which Madrix is Multiple Man, who we did do a deep dive on, so check that out. I lost my place. I hate it when that happens. Okay, the Madrix duplicates wreaking havoc. Legion arrives at the X-Mansion, seemingly in control of his powers and psyche, while the young X-Men try to ascertain what he wants. Elsewhere, Jean Grey and Psylocke team up to psychically purge whatever forces controlling the army of Madrix duplicates. Finding the Prime Madrix imprisoned below in the area where the army of duplicates are congregating, he explains that Legion imprisoned him and implanted his numerous alters and powers across the hundreds of duplicates. However, with this control broken, Legion goes berserk in the mansion, attacking the young X-Men and ranting about a vision of the future. The rest of the X-Men arrive to help, but Legion single-handedly takes on the whole team until he and Jean Grey go head-to-head. Legion then explains that he's trying to prevent a vision of the future and the arrival of the Horsemen of Salvation. Why did I say Salvatron? It's not a Transformer story. He's trying to prevent the arrival of the Horsemen of Salvation, but just as Legion mentions him, the Horsemen arrive. Wow. I'm sorry if that seemed like it was a lot of nothing. A lot of this history just really runs from one to another, and I feel like there's something that happens every time that I have to include it, even if like a lot of it doesn't seem very pointless. Alright, following the creation of Krakoa as a mutant nation, Legion was captured by Project Orcus and had his brain harvested into a mysterious device which kept his mind trapped in a hellscape, simulating Legion's various personas to predict every possible scenario in which to bring down the nation of Krakoa. Hoping to spread further strife, Orcus introduced an invasive entity to speed along the process, giving them a psychic weapon they can use to break the social structures of Krakoa and in the process destroy the new mutant homeland. Nightcrawler is the first to notice this dark trend at the heart of his fellow mutants, especially in the light of effective immortality, which radically altered and is influencing and pushing them to their darker and crueler impulses on a day-to-day basis. He also learns in the process about the Patchwork Man, a mysterious figure appearing to mutants in their dreams and haunting them. After recruiting Nightcrawler to rescue his mind from the device that trapped him, Legion confirms to Nightcrawler that the Patchwork Man and the signature he encountered in his mind are one and the same, and that belongs to Onslaught, the evil psionic entity born from Xavier's darkest self, somehow restored by Project Orcus. So that is nuts. That is insane. What a history. He is constantly going from one thing to another, and it is such a huge ride, right? What do you guys think of him? Like, it's pretty crazy, right? Let me know in the comments. Like I said, if you catch me on YouTube, it's under Superhero Deep Dive. I post new videos all the time, and you can reach out to me. I always love it when you comment, like, subscribe, share, critique, leave fun facts that I may not have, leave requests for future episodes. I'm there for it all, and everything gets acknowledged. But you can also email me directly if you want at b4itall, so b4itall at yahoo.com. And you can catch me on Twitter and Instagram under Super Deep Dive, and I try to use the hashtag Superhero Deep Dive, except when I forget, which is often. So with that, let me get into his powers. Now, Legion is insane, and I mean this in the best way. The following characters are different personalities of Legion that have appeared thus far, each one manifesting different powers. Through the personality of terrorist Jamal Karami, which is the name given to personality number 2, he has manifested telepathy. Through the personality of a roustabout adventurer, Jack Wayne, which is personality number 3, he has manifested telekinesis. This personality was often quite dangerous and would not hesitate to hurt or kill others if it would allow him to remain independent and free from David's control. Eventually, Jack Wayne was subsumed by a different malevolent Legion personality, Lord Trauma. Through the personality of the rebellious girl, Cindy, who is personality number 4, he has manifested pyrokinesis. This personality of Legion has a crush on Cypher. Through the personality of Legion, which is personality number 5, which claims to be Legion's real me. He can warp time and reality. Magic nicknamed this personality the God Mutant. And through the personality of Sally, who is the name given to personality number 67. He has the appearance of an obese woman with Hulk-like super strength. Through the personality of a punk rocker named Lucas, whose personality number 115, he can channel sound through Energy Blast. Personality 181 can enlarge himself to an undetermined size, and this was the first power Legion utilized with the Neural Switchboard wristband. Let's see, he's also got a personality named Johnny Gamora, which is personality number 186. He can transmute his enemies and objects into salt. Let's see here, there is Time Sync, who's personality number 227. And he has the ability of time manipulation. This rebellious personality was able to become independent from David, but was eventually found and reabsorbed by David. Ultimately, forced to stop using Time Sync's powers because when David tried to access the personality, it would always fight to get back its freedom. Personality number 302 can move at supersonic speeds. There is a personality called Styx, who is personality number 666. He has the ability to absorb the consciousness of anyone he touches, turning that person's body into a shell that he can then control. The possessed individual can still access any special abilities they have, and there does not appear to be a limit to the number of individuals simultaneously controlled. David considers this manipulative personality his most dangerous because it is clever, cruel, and extremely ambitious. Styx was able to become independent from Legion, manifesting as a desiccated corpse, and tried to take control of Legion himself, so that he could use Legion's reality-altering powers to remake the world according to his will. Legion, using the power of his chain personality, managed to trick and reabsorb Styx. Dude, that sounds like an insane power. I know I'm using the term insane a lot, and I'm sorry, but I mean, a lot of this is blowing my mind. Personality number 762. He becomes a pirate with the ability to belch an acidic gas. Now, personality 898, he becomes a centaur. Through the personality of Delphic, which is the personality number 1012, he becomes a blue-skinned, seemingly omniscient female seer who will answer any 3 questions from supplicants. Let's see, Legion's personalities that have not been assigned names or numbers include Absence. Well, I guess they have names, but they have not been assigned numbers, I guess. Absence, who is an alien demon creature with its eyes sewn shut, who claims to have traveled through different realities and who can siphon off heat and love. Bleeding Image is a living voodoo doll who can redirect and amplify the pain of any injury he inflicts on himself onto his victims. As he knows, how much must David hate himself to have imagined me? A malicious personality was able to become independent from David, but was eventually found and stated to have been destroyed by Magneto. Chain, effectively a human virus who turns anyone he touches into a copy of himself with a new weapon. The power dissipates when the original is dealt with. This personality was able to become independent from David, and he was eventually found and reabsorbed. Chronodon, a dinosaur with a clock on its face. Based on its name and appearance, it can be assumed that he can manipulate time in some way. A clown, a surly looking clown that can blast energy from its mouth. Compass Rose, who can locate any person and teleport to them. The Delusionaut, a trained engineer with a billow stack for a head who uses the smoke that he exudes to create illusions so convincing that they fool even powerful telepaths such as Emma Frost. He manifested outside of Legion to help him at one point, and eventually was one of the personalities that volunteered to meld together to form Gestalt. Drexel, a foul-mouthed simpleton with super strength. Endgame, huge and aggressive armor that instantly manifests the perfect counter to any attack executed against him. So, for example, becoming intangible, manifesting super strength, transmuting its material from metal to wood to defeat Magneto, things like that. The personality became independent from David, but was reabsorbed. The Fiend, or the quote-unquote Charles Xavier, which is a dangerous personality David created following the mental shock from the death of his father. The Fiend manifests as either a yellow goblin-like creature or in the guise of Professor X. It has significant psychic abilities, including precognition and possession, and can kill other Legion personalities within Legion's mind and absorb their power. Eventually, the Fiend became independent from David and tried to help him retain more control of himself. Findle the Finder, who can find anyone across the galaxy. Gestalt, a powerful fusion of several Legion personalities with a core personality of David himself, allowing the abilities of these personalities to manifest simultaneously under David's control. Legion created Gestalt to successfully repel an attack in his mind. Hugh Davidson, a stereotypical prepster with a long prehensile tongue. Hunter, a macho man personality. David's mind created to replace Jack Wayne when that personality was subsumed by the Lord Trauma personality. Hypnobloke, a gentleman with flashing swirls for eyes who wears a top hat and carries a pocket watch. He's got the power of hypnotic suggestion. Joe Fury, an angry young man who can generate flame and other types of energy, and whom David struggles to repress. Kerbax the Crackler, a demonic creature that can fly and generate electricity. Kasina Nadeja Panov, a Muscovite heiress, discus throwing champion, caviar exporter, and torturer of puppies. She has the ability to generate ionic scalpels from her fingers. Kizek the Conduit, an android with the ability of far-field, concentrated wireless energy transfer. So I'm not really fully understanding all of them, but I'll get into that in a bit. Lord Trauma is a malevolent personality who can bring out the worst trauma a person has experienced and draw power from the psychic energies that result in it. The personality became independent from David and tried to absorb all his other personas in order to gain control, although Trauma was eventually destroyed. Marcy Sable, a normal human girl who befriended David but was killed and absorbed into him by one of his other personalities, and she has significant influence within David's mindscape because she represents the innocence and the good. Max Kelvin, a crotchety old man whose eyes protrude when he uses his powers of plasmatic flame generation. Mora Kinross, a mother figure created by David's mind to protect his mindscape. I was going to say his manscape. To protect his mindscape from tampering. This persona, which could warp reality, became independent from David and created the dystopian pocket reality dubbed Age of X, where David was seen as a hero. Within this pocket reality, X was practically omnipotent, altering the mindsets and personalities of the fabricated entities in her reality. There's Mycolojester, a plant-like entity with the attire of a jester, who can emit toxic spores from his skin. The spores act as powerful nerve gas, but their effects can be dissipated by water. This personality volunteered to help David by merging with several other personalities to become the Gestalt alter. Non-Newtonian Annie, a skinny purple woman dressed in pink clothes and cloaked in a zero tau nullskin. I don't know what that is, but it does not conform to the law of conservation of energy. So whenever kinetic energy hits it, it is immediately amplified and redirected directly back on its source. The Origamist, one of the most powerful personalities in David's mind, is a reality-warping sumo wrestler who can fold space-time, allowing, among other things, instant teleportation of any object to any location. The Protozoan Porter, a large green leech-like being who can teleport by disassembling himself into minuscule amoeboid-like parts that reassemble after reaching his destination. This personality volunteered to help David by merging and becoming the Gestalt personality. Pacutus Jr., a small cherub-like demon who flies and can vomit acidic substance. Skinsmith, who can produce artificial skin on any surface or bend or alter the skin of others. Specs is a nervous young man with large glasses who can see through solid objects. This personality develops a romantic interest in magma. Susan in Sunshine, an innocent-looking blonde child with the ability to sense, augment, and manipulate the emotions of those around her, and if she wishes, convert those emotions into destructive energy. This personality became independent from Legion, but she was eventually found and reabsorbed by him. There's only a few more, I think, hopefully. But there is a lot. He's got a lot of things going on in his noggin. Temi Har, a nightclub singer who was a friend and companion to David. She appears to have a master knowledge of David's mindscape, which among other things allows her to manifest in the real world. Tyrannix the Abominoid, a small and hapless Cthulhu-like creature with telepathic powers. When David traveled within his mindscape, he often used Tyrannix as a backpack. Tyrannix was the first personality to volunteer to help David by melding to create Gestalt. The Weaver, who is probably Legion's most powerful splinter personality. He's a large arachnoid creature whose massive limbs are connected to a main body wreathed in bright light. The Weaver can change and refabricate reality itself, and it is ultimately revealed to be either David's core self or a mirror of David. When David and the Weaver united, he could observe and alter all time and space at will. David, aware of the extent and implications of his godlike power, attempted to unmake himself by erasing his own birth. For unknown reasons, his attempt failed, and it could have been undermined by many aspects of David's psyche to do that in the process of creating the Lord Trauma personality. The White Witch Doctor, a murderous white man dressed as a witch doctor who killed Marcy Sable and absorbed her psyche into Legion, creating the Marcy Sable personality. Wormhole Wodo, who can open a wormhole between 2 points anywhere in the galaxy, allowing near instantaneous travel between them. Let's see here. I think I got 3 more. There's Zeri Zap, a young punk woman with short spike hair who can manipulate electricity. Zero G Priestley, a rogue priest who floats upside down and can control gravity. And Zubar, a personality that likes to call himself the Air Shrike and has the power to levitate himself. So those are all his different alters and powers that we have documented. What I don't get is some of them, like one of them's a centaur, one of them's an obese person, one of them is an android. We have a couple females in there. When he switches personalities, and I guess if you ever watch a movie Split with the M. Night Shyamalan one, you know, the guy has different alters as well, and some of them are women. But with some of these where they're like androids and things, do they actually physically turn into that? A centaur, does he physically turn into half horse? Because I don't know how that would work, and I haven't seen it. I've seen his Mindscape versions, but I haven't seen the reality versions. And I guess maybe that's something that I'm ignorant of. I don't know how. If it's in your Mindscape, can it just be your imagination? I don't know. Let me know. If, like I said, if I'm ignorant, it's not out of trying to be offensive. It's just out of curiosity, and I just don't know. And I wouldn't even know how to look for something like that. But let me know what your take is on Legion. Let me give you my final thoughts though, because you know he's been around. Legion has been around for a long time, and he's always been like the guy that no one likes to talk about. Like, and I think this is because he's always had this immense power and a unique aspect to him with the multiple personalities. But to this, it kind of makes him hard to write because there are so many powers you can give him, and it'd be hard to make it look like it's not lazy writing. Like, that's kind of one of the complaints with Apocalypse. You know, he's got so many powers, and they've never actually been like fully defined, that you can do anything with them, and it just kind of makes for lazy writing, or at least it opens the door for lazy writing. Now there was a Legion series where he explored his psyche and went through the multiple personalities, and that was awesome. But I don't know what else he needs. Like, he's also got the show, which you can catch on Hulu, and it's pretty good. It's pretty decent. It's got Aubrey Plaza in it, who I love. The actor does a great job. But I don't know what he needs. Does he need to be in control of all his personalities to be able to call them at will? Like, I mean, is that something like, is that his next step? If he does this, will this diminish his dissociative identity disorder diagnosis? Would that hurt the character more than help him? Like, I just don't know. I don't know what you can do with him because they have made him so insanely powerful. He's got like 4 alters that can change the fabric of reality. He's got like 10 that can do fire. He's got another few that can teleport from one place to another instantly. And it's so weird because I'm not sure I fully understand why different alters have the same powers. Why wouldn't they just be the same? Like, it makes me question the writing sometimes, because I'm like, oh, did they think like, oh, it'd be cool to do this with the character? I know, I'll just make it one of his multiple personalities. And they all have like very similar traits and powers to some of his others. So instead of making it unique, it just seems kind of redundant. And that's why I'm wondering how much of Legion is creativity and how much is lazy writing. But what could we do with him? Like, you know, could one of his personalities, like Lord Trauma or something, was hell bent on world domination? Can one of his personalities be more powerful than the main one? There are a lot of questions that are here that I just simply don't have answers for, but I would love to know what you guys think. Like, what do you think we need to do with Legion? Would Legion be one of those characters, and I'm just throwing it out there, would Legion be one of those characters that would be better off destroyed? Just because there's so much that he can do, would it be better off that, you know, if he was wiped from existence, so you could either reinvent the character down the road with like a defined set of powers or traits, or what? Do you think we should keep him like it is? And, you know, where do we need to go? Where do we need to go with Legion? Because in all honesty, he's probably the most powerful mutant aside from Franklin Richards that doesn't really have any kind of defining things going on. There's so much stuff that he does, but really it's all within himself, and there's not a lot, like I said, that defines him. They had an awesome storyline that was kind of like the Age of X, so it's kind of like their version of What If or Elseworlds, like with DC Comics. But they said it only lasted a week. So what do you do? What do you do with this? Let me know in the comments. Like I said, you can email me directly at b4itall, so b4itall at yahoo.com. You can leave a comment or send me a DM on Twitter or Instagram under superdeepdive. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment there. Let me know what you would do with him. Let me know if you have any requests for future episodes or any kind of fun facts like that. But for now, I think I'm going to head out. This one has been long, and, you know, I'm sorry to say, but I feel really unproductive with this one because there just isn't a lot to define with them. But like I said, let me know what you think. In the meantime, I hope everyone is blessed. I hope everyone is happy. I hope everyone is safe, and I hope everyone is smart. But if you're not smart, don't get caught. And I'll see you guys in a week. Bye-bye.